Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first of a series of 4 webinars that we're doing here from the Pomerantz Career Center. You're joining Internship Best Practices Managing Student Talent, as you can hopefully tell by the slide that's right in front of you there. My name is Alan Becker, and I'm the Director of Corporate and Community Outreach here for the Pomerantz Career Center, and we want to welcome you. It's real quiet on campus. It's the first week after graduation here, and summer session just started this Monday, so it's really easy to get a table at a restaurant during lunch. So enjoy if you get to come to Iowa City here. This session is being recorded, and we're going to have that available either on our website or be able to email that to you. Haven't heard exactly how that landed yet, but we'll make sure that that's available, and the PowerPoint will be available as well. So that can be helpful for you if you have someone that you want to send this on to. I'd like to introduce the other folks that are joining me today. Jenny Noyce is a career advisor here in the Pomerantz Career Center, and she's also the Experiential Education Manager for the Career Center as well here at the University of Iowa. And also in our spotlight, you can see our special guests are Erin Fitzgerald, who is the Creative Coordinator and Art Director with Student Life, the Marketing and Design Office here at the University of Iowa. Her office is in the Iowa Memorial Union. And Julie DeVocchi is the Senior Program Manager in Talent Strategy with ACT. She's in charge of the internship program there, so she's going to be telling you more about that later on. Oddly, we're all wearing the same outfits that we wore in these pictures today, except for I'm wearing Jenny's glasses, so enjoy. We'll talk a little bit about the agenda coming up. We're going to be talking about some internship basics to start with, creating learning experiences. Erin's going to talk about supervising interns. She's been doing that for a long time, and some best practices there. And then Julie's going to talk about the internship program at ACT and some best practices as a part of that. And then we should have time for some questions at the end. So let's get started here. I'm going to jump into some fast facts, kind of an appetizer, if you will. Sorry to bring up food right before lunch. We've got some things to talk about here. First of all, we can see that employers have some specific goals when they're starting internships. You can see that 70.8% want to convert students to full-time positions. The actual conversion rate that was a part of that study was actually 51%. And so that is a goal for many employers, but about half of them reach that. So it's less common with nonprofit organizations to be focused on converting interns to full-time. Many nonprofit organizations don't have those full-time positions available, so they're really depending on those students as seasonal help, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. Now, don't get freaked out about the 1720 as the national average. That covers the entire United States, and it covers multiple levels of experience. So I want to talk a little bit about that. We did a little research yesterday just to pull students that had done internships in Iowa in the last 2 years, just to get an idea of what the average salary there was, and that's $13 an hour, with a range of from minimum wage $7.25 to $27.80 as a range of possible internship salaries here in Iowa during the last year. That was about 232 students that we had the information from there. There was an outlying salary of $38.10 an hour, but don't worry about that because I'll be applying for that internship as soon as we're done with the webinar today. So I'm not sure if that could have been a part-time job that someone used to create an internship as a part of that experience too. So that might explain the higher salary there. But the range that we saw was generally minimum wage $7.25 to $27.80. We're looking at, when you look at the salaries too nationally, the wages do rise based on the year in school, and computer science and engineering majors were the highest paid as well. The Midwest region is kind of in the middle of the wages scale, with the Western region reporting the highest average hourly wage and the Northeast reporting the lowest. You can see that the employers are also interested in getting students to have analytical and problem-solving tasks and project management experience as well. So all the information at the top was from the NACE 2015 Internship and Co-op Survey. NACE stands for National Association of Colleges and Employers, in case you were wondering about that. And then the information here, the 61.2% of students rated access to executives and mentorship as very important, is from the Look Sharp State of College Hiring 2015 survey, to give you an idea. So those are just a couple of basic things to get you started thinking about internships. And then we're going to move on to some additional information here. Oh, we've got some more info that I didn't notice was on the slide. So enjoy. So let's talk a little bit about the employer benefits as a basic starting point for internships. One of the key things is it's cost-effective recruiting. You have the opportunity to work with a flexible, cost-effective workforce that doesn't require a long-term employer commitment. It can be a proven and cost-effective way to recruit and evaluate potential employees. And then you have the opportunity to assess students' work and fit with the company before making a long-term hiring commitment. It also gives you the potential to reduce turnover and training time for entry-level employees. That also adds seasonal capacity. So obviously there's a lot of opportunity during the summer for students to do internships, but there are different industries like accounting, for example, who have interns in the spring, or co-ops as a part of that experience where it's really busy during tax time. I even heard the term wintern the other day, which I'm not sure will catch on, but it sounded kind of fun to have an internship during the winter break. I'm not sure if that would meet our minimum requirements for an internship at the University of Iowa if it was just 4 weeks, but it would be a great experience for students too. Also, employers have the opportunity to develop some leadership skills as a part of this. It allows some professional staff to pursue more creative projects and then develop experience supervising and managing talent that they may have not had the opportunity to do as a part of their professional experience. So having that opportunity with student interns is a great way to get that supervisory experience. You may also gain some fresh perspectives from the interns that you're bringing on. Interns can bring new perspective, concepts, and ideas and the latest technologies to your organization. Let's say you were always wanted to learn about Snapchat or Pinterest, or you're setting up your new Galaxy S12 or your iPhone 11. A student might be able to help with that. So that would be a benefit that you could take advantage of as a part of that experience as well. And then finally, employers can benefit from campus branding. You also get a greater chance at hiring the top students in your field through showcasing your business and organization to potential employees. That gives you some increased visibility on campus as a potential employer, and enhanced community image by contributing your expertise to the educational enterprise. You can also foster the next generation of professionals in your field. It really gives them that opportunity to explore. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as a part of the student benefits that are a possibility as a part of this experience. If you can build some of these benefits into the structure of your program, or just supervising your own individual intern, you're more likely to have interns brag about your program and be building unofficial brand ambassadors for your organization when they come back to campus. One of the options for them is certainly career exploration. They have the opportunity as an intern with your organization to learn more about that career field from the inside and decide if it's the right career field for them. That's a benefit both to you and them to be able to understand if this is the industry or organization that they want to be a part of or not. I mean, that's just as helpful a learning experience for them to be able to identify whether if it's not a good fit as well, so that they can know early on and be able to explore different options. Leadership and skill development is also a great benefit for students, learning new skills that add to the knowledge base while gaining confidence in their abilities. Having the ability to practice communication and teamwork skills, gaining industry knowledge firsthand from an organization and its professional staff, applying some of the ideas that they've learned in their classes in school and their experiences here on campus, and provide a bridge between that school and that professional world. Clearly, it gives them the opportunity to enhance their resume, get some valuable experience that they can talk about in the interview settings or put in on their resume itself when they're applying for other jobs or for grad school. This is all going to be a valuable benefit to them. And that's something that you as a supervisor can help with too, to make sure that they're able to talk about the experiences that they're having at their internship and being able to share that comfortably in an interview setting, or at least in writing for sure on their resume. Looking forward, the opportunities to develop mentors and build the references and expand their network are also clear benefits for the student to be able to be gaining as a part of their internship experience. Meeting new people and practicing those networking skills while establishing a network of professional contacts and mentors and building that all-important LinkedIn profile and building those connections that you would have for future interaction. And then hopefully opening the door to recommendations if they do a great job as a part of your organization, having that ability to call on you to write in a reference for either a future position or grad school. When students take initiative, they can gain all of these benefits, and when students gain these from the structure of their internship, they'll be bragging about your company or organization and the internship program, or maybe even you as a supervisor when they get back to campus. So you have a kind of a built-in brand ambassador that's representing you back on campus, sharing the good word about your experiences there. So I'm going to turn it over to Jenny Noyce now, and she's going to talk a little bit about setting objectives as a part of an internship.
Thank you, Al. So we've heard a little bit about how internships can benefit the employer and benefit the student, but setting objectives and some of the other pieces that I'm going to go through with you, those are ways to structure your program so that you're really ensuring that those benefits are there both in for yourself and both for the student. So when we think about setting objectives, it really helps the intern in a few ways and then also helps you. One is it's establishing some clarity and setting expectations for specific job duties. It can connect the internship to broader skill sets that your organization and other employers want. And then it can also help the intern set their own growth trajectory through goals connected to their professional future. And all of those really help gain buy-in with the student. Now, you don't necessarily just set objectives and then leave them to the side. These can also be content for supervision meetings where you can continually check in on them. And what that does is that helps automatically hold the student accountable for their internship's duties. It makes developing a mentoring relationship easier because it then helps you get to know them a little bit both as an intern and as a professional colleague, but then also as a person as well. Lastly, by setting objectives up front, you're also doing a little bit of work for the evaluation that you can do at the end. And so you would say, hey, these objectives are what your evaluation is going to be based off of. And then students have that transparency and know right away what they're going to be held accountable to. So the first type of objective is going to be an internship objective. And if we look at these two examples up there, you can see that internship objectives are very project-based and training-based. They align with the job descriptions, and then they can provide a lot of structure to the student and supervisor for the time spent there. They can also be very time-bound and have very explicit outcomes to help set those clear expectations. In the first example, there are exact large duties and outcomes that are expected of the student. So those daily presentations, and then the 3 family nights. Then when you have conversations about the objectives with the student, you want to make sure that they understand the big picture and why those goals support the mission of the team, the mission of the department, or the mission of the organization or company. You can also start to have conversation while allowing them to have those big picture questions of how large are the family nights, or who would I be collaborating with in order to get them accomplished, and really helping them agree on those big picture goals, but you don't necessarily have to get lost in the nitty gritty yet if you're not ready to start the project. Now in that second example, this might be where when you start to give directions for each specific project to execute the tasks, where you're going to start to insist, you know what, these are very big picture things, and I'm going to say you need to start taking notes. You might also want to help them scaffold the outcome by asking questions about when they don't exactly ask the right questions of you. So the questions you might end up asking are, what other information do you think you need in order to be successful with this project? How might you break the project apart into actionable items? As well as, what are some smaller deadlines, or are there any staff members that you might need to be working with or asking questions of? As the supervisor, you're most likely going to know all of those answers, but this gives interns practice and planning with you there to promote some of that thinking and questioning. And then it gives you the coaching opportunity where you know both, hey, here are agreed upon big outcomes, but here's agreed upon process. And by asking questions, you're getting the answers to come from them as opposed to you necessarily jumping immediately into micromanaging. So the next two types of objectives are going to be professional development objectives and student learning objectives. Now, if one of your interns registers for a course with the Pomerantz Career Center for an internship course, they're automatically going to be held accountable to some of these professional development objectives. So if we look at the first two on there, those ones are based upon NACE's top 10 skills that employers want. And this really helps students break things out into saying, hey, what's the big picture here? What are things that I need to do in order to be a good employee? It can also make sure that they're developmentally appropriate for where the student's at. So we'll be able to show you all of those objectives that we have. Necessarily whether you decide to put them into your internships or not is up to you, but they will be on page 12 of the Employer Internship Manual, which we'll send you. Now, when we think about setting objectives, it's also about setting standards for behavior and for how they'll be working in the office, what those work habits are. It also allows you then in those conversations to give some formative feedback before the actual evaluation. And it can help you gauge your correct attitudes about the department, the employer, or the career field in general in order to make sure that the intern is not basing their assessment and their opinion on a gut reaction based upon a challenge, but that it's actually based upon reality and mature thinking. Now, similar to above, with all of these objectives helping to build buy-in, the student's own learning objectives can encourage buy-in because they're picking them and they're deciding what are those hard skills or what are those soft skills that they want to develop at their organization. These can also branch off into the effective realm. As we see in that last one, there are very specific action items with it, but the main part of that objective is gaining confidence. So it's really helping them make sure that overall they're feeling like they're also adjusting to the professional world. Lastly, if you wanted to really work more on planning skills with your student and having a plan and actual action items, you could have them take those objectives and make sure that they've put in different action items about when they're going to meet those goals or how they're going to meet those goals. So if we go forward, setting objectives is great, but how do you then make sure that they actually succeed? So there are about 8 ways of different items we'd recommend to put into the structure of your program. One of them is going to be having an orientation. And orientations are about providing some of that basic information. It might be where the restroom is, or it might be safety procedures or some policies. It might be about dress code or using office equipment. Those are the things where they say, hey, I know what this office is like and I know how to get by here. An orientation, though, can also be an opportunity for team integration. It could include tours of departments with individual introductions. It might be as simple as saying, you know what, we want to put out a welcome sign at their desk that the team has signed. It could also be doing a lunch or a coffee their first week. Now, if you have multiple interns, this might be much more formal, where if you have that larger program, you're going to be arranging presentations with key people. You might be having the interns completing icebreakers, doing activities that also train them on the values and the culture of your actual organization. The next thing that you can also look at is some skill-specific training. And there might be some hard skills or knowledge that the student needs in order to be successful in the duties and projects that you're giving them. So that might be explaining and then watching them use specific functions on a computer program, having them shadow presentations before presenting on their own, or it could be observing them do client calls and giving them feedback on it before letting them have the independence to go do them on their own. We talked a little bit then as well about weekly formal supervision meetings, and those are really key for ensuring the intern is adjusting and performing. And if they're not performing well, these meetings really allow you to coach or correct behaviors before they're out of control, before the evaluation. Lastly, one thing to look at is goal or project tracking. It could just be a form that you use where they're looking at those objectives or a project and gauging where they are in those. It's also a way that you can have the student do that, and it's structured reflection or problem solving for their own self before they have to take it to you in a weekly supervision meeting. And if your organization does have project management tools that they use, it's great to expose them to those as well. So if we look then at the next slide, a few other ways to incorporate some structures can be things like stand-up or 1-minute meetings. Now, supervision meetings can be very formal. They will take up some of your time. But if your organization is fast-paced, updates on work need to happen on a daily basis, you can start your day with much shorter meetings where it's really about communicating directly, making sure everyone's on the same page, and that problems are solved or support is given quickly. Those 1-minute meetings really are not about processing or reflecting. They're about making sure that things are getting done. And those would happen more regularly than a supervision meeting. Lastly, you've also heard about being a mentor in here a little bit. So mentoring and supervising can be two very different things. Depending on the office, it might be that your organization and supervisor and then the mentor will be the same person. This is going to allow for growth conversations. It helps them navigate the professional world by being able to answer questions and having the supervisor provide advice. Sometimes, though, you will have organizations where they have one who is just the supervisor and then another person who is just the mentor in order to make sure that the evaluation process and those boundaries stay very similar. Overall, with that, you do have to remember you're balancing supervision and being a mentor, and that you are expecting the student to perform. So that's with the caveat that their maturity and work habits are still being strengthened. And so overall, you want to make sure you're providing feedback on both strengths and areas for improvement in order to spur that growth. Now, the last two items that you can use in your program to structure it for success are team integration and then shadowing and informational interviews. One of the benefits for students of an internship is to be able to network, and they'll be much more effective in their job duties if they're integrated into the team and organization. That can be very simple things like making sure everyone knows each other's names. You can have team members invite them to lunch or coffee once a week. Purposely asking for the intern for feedback or thoughts about meetings in front of other people. And then if the organization has social events, insisting that the intern goes. Now, what I really like about asking students for their feedback during meetings is it automatically sets an inclusive tone, but it also raises the bar and raises the expectation for them because they know that they're going to have to speak up and can't just be on the sidelines. Lastly, I'd also recommend giving the intern an organizational chart. An example of this from our own mistake, we did not give our intern an organizational chart. And second to last week of their time with us, we were at a table at an office event. A man was there. This man was actually our assistant provost, but the intern did not know who he was, right? And we had not introduced him. Luckily, the intern carried himself well, but afterwards he did ask me, who was that man? And he was very confused about just sort of the leadership in our office and how that looked. And so having the organizational chart at the beginning of the internship can be very good for them. Lastly, shadowing and informational interviews, they help both with team integration, but they also help then with the intern understanding your organization, understanding the organizational culture, and understanding the different functions that happen. And it allows them to both explore a little bit, but build more friendly faces in the office. Now, the last piece that I'm going to talk about are evaluations. When we think about the formal structure of an internship program, evaluations really close the cycle and close the loop. Okay? You would align them with objectives in order to close that circle. And so those objectives are really, here are your expectations. You then put structures in place to help them succeed and meet those expectations. But then you're saying, did you actually meet those expectations? Now, if we look, evaluations can have a few different pieces of them. You might be valuing those objectives that you put at the beginning, where they might have completed some of the projects that they were assigned to, or they made progress with those soft skills or those hard skills. Some of them might be key behaviors that are necessary for a role. So it might be a hard skill that they really need. So it could be a specific program, it could be a lab technique, it could be the ability to follow a sales cycle. Or for working with specific clients, it might be that necessity for being sensitive and confidential when working with them. There could also be office values. So do they Do you value as a company collaboration or excellent customer service or innovation? And then lastly, those personal traits. So what do they need to be good in the field? So positive attitude, strong interpersonal skills, integrity. Really define some of those bits and pieces. Now, the goal of an evaluation is measurement and conversation. On your part, the benefit of it is you're now going to have a written record of whether or not this person would be a good fit for you for a hire in the future. For the student, the benefit is going to be that feedback piece. So as you design it, you don't necessarily want to have to spend hours and hours completing it. It doesn't need to necessarily be an essay. So instead, maybe consider doing a 1 to 5 scale or a strongly disagree to strongly agree, but then find some key places where you think you want that actual written record of the feedback, and then you can go into more detail and provide some specific examples when meeting in person about the evaluation. So at this point, we'd like to turn it over to our fellow co-presenters. And the first one is going to be Erin Fitzgerald, and she's going to talk a little bit about tips for success when supervising your intern. Erin comes recommended to us by students as an excellent internship supervisor. Before joining the University of Iowa as a creative coordinator at marketing and design in 2012, she worked as a graphic artist creating packaging design in Cedar Rapids, and then she was recently recognized as a top 20 finalist for Supervisor of the Year from the University of Iowa. At her time in the UI, she has supervised approximately 20 interns. And then in her spare time, she's an artist, fosters dogs, and of course, helping us with webinars. Erin, can you start by telling us about the job duties of your intern?
Great, thanks, Jenny. Marketing and Design is a student-powered creative agency at the University of Iowa. It's made up of 9 professional staff and over 30 student workers, many of them interns at any given time. We serve to do all the marketing, design, web, and photography needs of over 100 clients on campus. Our agency works much like an ad agency. All the students work in an open space together, so it's a very chaotic and fast-paced environment that oftentimes takes a little adjusting, especially for professional staff to come in and realize that their job is to manage not only their own work, but also clean up the pieces of the work of all the student interns that are trying to learn the ropes of this new role they're taking on. We try to treat the experience as if they are a full-time employee of ours, giving them the real-world graphic design experience. Most of them are designers, marketers, bloggers. We want to put them out with these clients and let them realize what it's going to be when they graduate. So what follows is just kind of some of the great tips I've learned in the last 5 years that I've been supervising interns, just to kind of help you get back to the basics. So we'll start there. First, it seems silly, but face-to-face communication, it's very important in today's workplace. Many student interns would rather email, text, Facebook message, GChat, the information to you instead of speaking directly to their clients or their supervisors. I've actually had a student who was supposed to be to work at 8 o'clock in the morning send me a Facebook chat at 3 p.m. saying, oops, he fell asleep. So don't feel like that's unexpected. It happens, especially with younger interns. I hope as they continue on in their professional development that things like that aren't considered appropriate communication, and they learn that very quickly after the first mistake. Encourage your interns to stop hiding behind their technology. Help them understand that meeting face-to-face and engaging with their coworkers and their clients really helps them make an impression and be remembered. Those relationships that they're building as they're working in your office or working with external clients are ones that could last a lifetime, so really encourage that. They also allow for a great working environment, and it will encourage the clients you're working with or that the intern is working with to return because this intern is now trusted, they value the experience they had with them, and it builds a great relationship. Also help them build relationships externally while they're working for you. Having the connections in other departments or also with other businesses in the area opens a whole lot of doors for people after they leave your organization if you don't hire them full-time. I know that when I left an internship role, I used people I'd met outside of the organization that were professionals in their own right in order to be an additional recommendation, someone that wasn't a professor or didn't oversee me specifically an intern, but could speak to my skills as working with a client. So I would definitely encourage that. Yeah, it's only going to help their networking skills. It will grow them as an individual, and it'll help them feel part of your organization, but also part of the greater good of the community. Accountability. Allow your interns to really own the projects. I found that the more I try to micromanage a project or control all pieces of it, the less they feel connected to the work. So when you set up the project, giving them the boundaries of what they're responsible for and being there as, overseeing the process can really help move it forward, but still allow them to reflect on what skills they brought to the table and how much they could really own the project. Allow them to fail and succeed. Failure is a huge part of an internship. But sometimes it can lead to learning a lot about yourself and also about the intern. Whether it's a successful venture or a failure, you're always going to be able to teach the intern and help them learn along the way. Help them understand that this makes them better for future projects, and having time to reflect on completed work is always good. I know when I worked as an intern, I made an error in a magazine that cost a company $20,000. So mistakes like that definitely aren't the best, and you go home feeling like you might not have a job the next day, but it's something I've never done again. So definitely teach them, fail in that area once, and then help them do better in the future. Following through and following up. This is something that I see is kind of faltering in today's student interns. They want to know the information right in that minute, but if it's the next week, they might not remember it. They might not follow up with the client. They might not follow through with the task you ask them to do. So a lot of my job in managing them is to make sure that they're following through with those processes. Teach them that knowing the ins and outs of every project allows them to be in control of multiple tasks. That's something they're used to in their class setting, but when it's working with professional clients, you definitely have to drive it home that people are spending money on this work and you're paying them to be there, so they really need to do the follow-up and follow through. And you also want your clients to feel taken care of, so it's a good process to follow. And write it down. It seems really simple, but it's always a good practice. Anytime I work with my interns, I ask them to bring a notepad and a pen. I ask them to take notes and stay informed. I expect them to be responsible for the time I'm spending to give them information. And the more they know, the better they'll be at their job. When they're first starting out, I also spend a lot of extra time outlining projects and setting the groundwork. That goes back to kind of showing, the workflow in your office, people they can contact in the office who have different skill sets, letting them know who they can reach out to complete a task without always running to you to ask for the answers. If they know this framework of the office and they know the groundwork has been laid out, they'll be able to identify the little details and stop asking so many questions in order to complete tasks on their own. Next, I want to move to kind of the big picture, identifying personal goals. Anytime an intern starts, I always ask them, what is your dream job? You want to show some personal interest in, 20 years from now, what's their future goal? And what would they like to accomplish while working in their office? Maybe the work you have day in and day out isn't exactly what they're going to be doing in that dream job, but you can manipulate those tasks in order to help them feel like it's a stepping stone to where they want to be. Identify what strengths they have and apply those to these goals that they've set for themselves. It will help them kind of check things off their list and really feel like they're being successful in your new work environment. Watch the way they work, and in a positive way, help to identify areas of growth. This is something that can kind of be a touchy subject, but I find that when you do identify areas that students need to work on, as long as it's in a positive way, they're always very thankful for realizing that in themselves and then being able to fix it for future employers. Always bring it back to helping them develop their skills in order to reach that dream job. Be interested in what steps they can do further to attain those goals, and also try to assign them projects that will highlight their strengths and grow those weak areas. Students, if they feel challenged in a certain direction that's helping their career, they'll work extra hard and do great work. Task management. It's something that a lot of students come in not knowing. I find it very helpful to clearly explain workflow, timeline, responsibilities, and priorities. You may end up with an intern who is very narrow-minded and thinks, well, this is only my job, this is all I do. But there's always 15 working parts in a project, and understanding what their priorities are and their responsibilities so no balls are dropped is a great practice to help them understand. And these skills aren't always developed in student interns. They could be talented, but just not task-oriented. So helping them understand to apply those talents to the workforce is a great skill to develop. Help them understand the business as a whole. It helps them feel like a piece of a much bigger puzzle. Their small part as they're working on these tasks really helps to build up the goals of the entire organization and recognize what their role is. And talk to them about how the job's going. be able to find a balance of, their work life and their personal life. It's often hard when they're first starting out. So show interest in that and be understanding of the struggles they might be going through. Just being understanding of the transition helps them feel at ease and that they're accepted into the work environment. And being a resource, I tend to always have an open door policy. This leads to me staying at work far later than I ever planned to most days, but I find it to be most successful that students always feel like I'm there for them no matter what time of day. I'm always available via cell phone on the weekends whenever they need help, and that has helped me grow a lot of interns to be amazing successes outside of their internship experience with me. And that when they know they can always come to you, you're reliable, and they begin to build that trust, which helps in the work environment as well. I always encourage them to ask questions. No question is ever a wrong question unless it's asked 3 times. Remind them to write things down again. If you're working to teach them practices in your environment, encourage them to ask those questions, but also remind them to build on the knowledge that you've taught them and not ask the same question more than 3 times. And then also appreciate a job well done, create value in their work, and always recognize the effort they're putting forth. This is a new environment they're working in. They're trying to figure out how they fit in this new role, and really acknowledge that they're doing a good job if they are. And finally, personal and professional development. Always try to stay ahead of the curve. Staying in tune to what's on trend is really important in my work environment, knowing what's happening in design trends, photography, magazines, and other ad agencies. If you know what's going on around you, you can always be one step ahead of it. It makes you relatable and in the know, so you don't feel outdated to your interns. Be informed about new technologies, which Al touched on earlier. Sometimes your interns coming in, they might know software that will do the job better and faster. So don't be resistant to that, and don't think it's just something that college kids use. It could be a great resource to really push your business forward. And use them as a benefit to you and to learn from that knowledge that you might not be tapped into. Always continue to learn in order to pass on that knowledge. Let them know that you want to grow with them while also teaching them what you've learned from your career. I often take my students on 4 to 5 field trips a year, and sometimes they're not just work environment field trips. I take them to learn letterpress workshops, screen printing workshops, painting classes, something that takes them away from the computer, out of the office work environment. It builds that relationship, but it's also developing their fine art skills and talents that they might not tap into every day. So just something, if you don't work in a design agency, which most of you won't, something that outside of what they're doing in the office, team building, something that will help them apply it to their workplace and also build that connection. Be a leader and a role model. Interns are always looking for informed managers. If they don't feel like they can learn from you, they're not going to do good work for you. Be able to be a mentor first to your student interns, and that could change their entire career path. If you lead by a great example, they can aspire to do things far greater than what they ever expected of themselves. Realize their potential, and don't ever sell the opportunity short of what that relationship is that you have with that intern. Be respected. Respect the intern first and build that relationship and trust. And if they can respect you, they're going to do amazing work and realize you as a strong leader and become strong leaders in their own right. And finally, challenging them. Most of my interns, when they start, think that I'm extremely strict and I expect way too much out of them. But when they leave my care, I don't think anyone has ever come back and said that they didn't learn or that I pushed them too hard. Sometimes they just don't know their own potential. So I found that setting high standards and expecting quality work is really helping them to start their career off on the right foot. It's setting a high bar and what will be expected of them in the real world. Be direct with your expectations. If there's busy work to be done, be honest about it. Let them know that this isn't a task that will challenge you, but it's still part of the day-to-day. And then also offer them projects that are the high-level projects that will help them elevate their skill set and communicate the goals that they want for their future. And finally, push them to excel. Again, I've never had an intern tell me that pushing them hasn't made them a better worker, more successful in their careers, or better at what they do. And I really challenge you, as you have these interns work for you, to help them realize their potential and push them to the next level. Next, we will have Jenny DeVoke, and she's a program manager from ACT. ACT is an assessment organization in Iowa City whose mission is helping achieve education and workplace success. Julie has been with the organization for 32 years in various roles, and most recently heads up their internship program, which has been in existence for almost 30 years. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you, Erin. I want to take a minute too to thank Ellen for this opportunity to talk to you a little bit about our internship program that we do have at ACT. You've already heard from Ellen and Jenny and Erin on how valuable an internship program is, not only for the student, but for the organization. And so I don't want to repeat a lot of things, but I'm going to just talk to you a little bit about what we have found at ACT and what currently is working for us. One thing you have heard already, that it is of value for both the organization and the intern. And what you need to recognize with that is that you also want then the internship program to be valued and appreciated by your leaders. And so leadership buy-in is really important, and we find that of huge value add to our program. So we currently average approximately 20 interns in our summer program. This year, we're excited to say that we have almost 30 that will be starting in June. So excited to roll out some great opportunities for the interns this summer. Kind of what our internship program looks like. We start the day when they arrive with like a welcome orientation. And this, as you've heard, you need to orient them to your expectations and the program and what they're going to get out of it, but also what we're going to get out of it as an organization. So we kind of get together and go through that, what the program's going to look like. We then have scheduled ahead of time. I've already worked with all our leaders across the organization. And so each of our senior leaders will come in and talk to the interns for about an hour about their area of business and what they do. Some of them will also talk about internships that they've had as a student and where they got to in this part of their career, so that interns can hear and see how some of the leaders have chosen their path and got into the field where they are today. They also learn then about how each part of our organization helps and works towards our mission, which is helping those people achieve education and workplace success. We then also have, I reach out to different businesses in the organization to see if they have a project that the interns could work on. We look for a focus group opportunity. This is a great opportunity for a business in our organization to put together a project for the interns to work on. What a great time to get input and value add from a group of millennials when they would have approximately 20 to 30 on site at one time. So we use that for an opportunity for focus group opportunity. We also want the interns to see a value add of what it means to work and incorporate your time in the community. So we ask the interns to participate in a local service project that aligns to our mission. So the interns work as a team to develop, initiate, and complete the project. The project's purpose is to help the interns understand how they can positively impact communities and create opportunities to develop those teamwork skills. As you can see from the slide, last year the interns chose to participate in a habitat build. They had so much fun working together and the experience of using different tools and equipment. It was amazing how many interns reached out to me to receive those photos and some of those experiences to put on their resume and have with them. We also then look for our recruiters and our SMEs in our different business areas to work with the interns on mock interviews and resume reviews. This is a great opportunity for them to get firsthand experience on what maybe some subject matter experts are looking for, as well as what a potential recruiter might be looking for, so that they can make sure that their resume is seen when they're applying to some of these positions that might get well over 100 applicants. We also then have the opportunity where the interns are working on a specific project. And as you heard Jenny talk to, those projects are aligned with their job description. So they kind of see uphand what they're going to be working on. And so with that, we do have a report out. And this is an opportunity for the intern to showcase what they've worked on, not only to the area that they're working in, but we open it up for all team members. So all team members are able to go in and hear from the interns on what they worked on, see the type of work that they've done. And then this also inspires other areas of the business to maybe next year request an intern, because they can see the value add of what the interns are working on and what they bring to the organization. This is also a great opportunity that we look at what is the takeaway for the intern, because some of the projects they're working on is ACT owned data. And so that is something that is property of the ACT that they're not able to take with them. But we want the intern to have a tangible item that they can use on their resumes or in future opportunities so they can showcase what they've done. So we work on that and what that looks like as well. We also then have at the end of the program a recognition and award ceremony, and this is for all our supervisors and mentors and buddies and our senior leaders in the organization to come in and hear from the interns on what they worked on. The supervisors talk a bit about the project, and then they receive a certificate of the program that they completed. So it's great hands-on opportunity for them to showcase what they've done in front of the leaders as well. What we do at the end of the program then is we also do a survey. We survey the interns, the mentors and buddies, and also the supervisors to see if what we're doing is hitting the mark of what we're trying to get out of it and what we could maybe change and add to next year to improve on the program. You always want to be able to look at ideas and make sure that your program is current with the times and of value to both the organization and the student. One thing I recommend too, and this is something I started a couple of years ago when I started with the internship program, is staying connected with the interns, especially those that you've now seen across the 9-week program that are high po that you really want to stay connected with, that you want to maybe have a future opportunity that they look at your organization. So we stay connected either by email or definitely through LinkedIn. I encourage all of them to get a LinkedIn website and go ahead and we stay connected that way, which is a great opportunity. I've heard from several last year that chose to continue on with their education. They got enough, they saw some opportunities that they wanted to continue education, so they've entered into some graduate programs, and others have taken on their first opportunities in the workforce. So a great opportunity to stay connected to see how maybe in 5 years or 10 years that they'd want to come back to the area for those that have moved away. But yeah, so definitely see the value add. I encourage organizations to have an internship program. We definitely have learned from ours. We do use it as a pipeline for our workforce solutions. We are currently having our interns that we've recently hired full-time roles take part in the program as well. So our interns that have recently been hired are actually doing our icebreaker with the interns on the first day to kind of get them familiar with what they've been through, what they're doing, and what ACT is all about. So definitely encourage that. We've been able to probably average at least 1 hire, if not 2, every year from the program. So definitely see the value add of an internship program. Again, I want to take the time to thank everybody for participating in this webinar, and I will send it back to Alan.
All right, thank you, everybody. Thanks, Julie and Erin and Jenny, for all participating on the panel today. I want to open it up for questions now and see if you have any questions or best practices that you'd like to share. We'd be happy to share those. If you type those in, we can share those over the microphone here. If not, I want to make sure that you know that, again, we've recorded this session and we'll have that available for you either via email or on our website. So we'll let you know how that is happening. And we're also going to be sending out an evaluation form for you as well. This is the first webinar that 3 out of the 4 of us have ever done in our lives, so be gentle. But we encourage you for constructive and helpful feedback as well. So we'd love to hear what your thoughts are on that. I'm not seeing any questions yet, but if there are any, I know I did get a couple of best practices shared earlier. One was that if you're a nonprofit organization, as someone suggested, having your interns either present or interact with your board, because they have they have organizations of their own and might have opportunities outside of this nonprofit organization to be able to hire students. And then so that's a great opportunity for them to have that interaction, especially as a nonprofit that doesn't have positions available to convert those interns to full-time. Looks like we're getting a couple here. One is we're a small company with just a couple of interns at once, and how can we give the kind of experience that they might get at a large company? So we'll have some of the panelists talk about that a little bit here. Anybody want to jump in?
This is Erin. I would say our office is only about 40 people, and I'm not sure how small yours is, but I do try to take them to larger organizations. When I worked as a packaging designer, I was in an office setting, but I worked in an organization of about 500 people. So allowing them to go to a place like that and showing them what my role looked like as a designer there, but then also all the other roles that functioned around me and how that machine really functioned as a whole, helps them see, you could even be a much smaller piece of a very big puzzle, but still have a lot of energy and effort to put into a company. But also help them understand in a smaller organization, there's a lot more detail placed on the development of them as an individual. They're not going to get lost in the mix of things.
This is Julie. I will add on to that. This year I'm trying something new. I reached out to, we do have a group in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, that is our Economic Alliance group, and they actually have a couple of internship programs that they do. And so they actually are coming to our first day, our welcome reception for the interns, but they actually have put together 2 events over the summer that are their progressive dinners, where interns from the corridor are going to be able to get together and go to a few restaurants and share experiences and have appetizers and hang out for a few hours. So I would definitely check in your area to see what other businesses are doing and try and incorporate the interns together. I think it's a value add if you want an intern to maybe look at your organization in the future, that the more people they meet in the corridor that they might make a connection to is of great value as well.
I'll send out the contact information for that, for those events as well, so that you can connect with the area development groups on those internship panels and groups, and the progressive dinners and that sort of thing. It doesn't look like we have, oh wait, here's another one. How long typically are the internships that you've referenced in your presentation today? So the guidelines for the University of Iowa to be counted as an internship are 10 weeks.
So we have two opportunities that students can register for as an internship. One, if it's over the summer, is going to be 8 weeks, but our 4-credit course is the minimum of 6 weeks. However, sometimes students will want to do shorter internships. They cannot get credit for it, but it could be things where you say, let's have them in for winterim, just for those 4 weeks over their winter break, and that could be a way to get them in, but if you don't have as much time to dedicate to them, to put that forth as well.
All right, that looks like it's all the questions that we have for today. So thank you very much for attending, and we really appreciate your willingness to participate, and hope you'll check out the other 3 webinars that we have offered throughout the rest of the summer. It won't be the same people, so if you really enjoyed this one, I'm sorry to disappoint you, we won't be back. But if you didn't like this one all that much, good news, there's new people at the next couple, so enjoy those, and we thank you again for participating, and have a great day.